listening to The Forefront Radio, where we discuss history, the Bible, the history of the Israelites, science, and other matters. Bring it out. The history of the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans as it relates to the Bible. Who were you prior to slavery? Who were you prior to colonization? These answers and more can be seen and heard as you listen to The Forefront Radio. Welcome to the Forefront Radio. Welcome to the Forefront Radio. I'm your host, Afia Levi. Hope everyone is doing all right. Hope everyone is doing all right. We are going to be talking about a few things in regards to history, but before we do, let's touch on some news coverage and commentary. Today's discussion, we're going to talk about the new contagious COVID-19 variant now circulating in California. Health experts warn. Here's what you need to know. This was posted about 3 days ago. Scientists at Stanford University have detected a new COVID variant that experts say is already evident in wastewater samples in California, even as access to vaccines is restricted. C19 is still evolving, and scientists are keeping close tabs on NB181, a substrain detected in China last month and now is circulating in the Bay Area. It's been reported in Europe and it's been reported here in the United States, and we've seen it's here in our wastewater in California, in wastewater, so it's around, said Dr. John Swartzberg, a UC Berkeley expert in infectious disease and vaccinology. Y'all, they're testing the doo-doo and they find COVID in the doo-doo water. Sounds a little sus, y'all, but it is what it is. Let's touch on another news article. Multiple people were shot after gunmen opens fires inside Connecticut Mall. The savages. The savages are savaging. That's what's going on, y'all. Y'all, in places in Africa, you don't got gun violence going on. People don't walk around with strapped up. You understand? At least 5 people have been shot at a Connecticut mall where at least one gunman opened fire Tuesday afternoon. Waterbury police have said the shooting at the Brass Mill Center began sometime before 4:40 p.m. when officers first responded to the scene for reports of a disturbance. ABC 7 News reports. Dramatic video from the scene showed people screaming while others run by. One person could be heard saying, "He shot me," while another victim lying on the ground says, I can't move, somebody help me." Witness Fayed Saeed's son, who was working at the mall at the time of the shooting, also told CT Post how he saw one of the injured victims on the ground screaming for help. That's what's going on in America, y'all. You can't go to the mall without egregious actions happening. The savagery. Now let's touch on the last article for news information and coverage. 2 students, 22, found unalive in dorm just days after graduation sparks fear, with outraged parents calling for change. Here's a photograph. Usually when it's European Americans that pass away, they say it's a tragic loss. But when it's a black man getting shot down by the police, they say he's a thug. Parents have been left angry and demanding change after 2 students were found unalive at a college campus just days after their graduation, the United States Sun can reveal. Kelsey Martin and Haley Helms, both 22, were found dead in their dorm at the University of Wisconsin-Platteville on Monday, May 18th, police confirm. Here's another photograph. Kelsey Martin, 22, of Below, was reportedly shot dead in her campus dorm from credit handout. And this is another photograph here. Haley Helms, 22, of Barabu, also died after being taken in the hospital. Credit is given to handout. So that's what's going on for news, y'all. Here's my commentary on it. Y'all, my commentary is this. We see in a society that promotes gun violence through music, through media, through movies, and other things of that nature. Anyone in their right mind would say, of course, if your culture embraces violence, you will reap what you sow. But it seems for some strange reason, people don't understand that. They think that if you promote violence in a society where people have easy access to pew pews and various things, that there wouldn't be an increase of it, that it's all in their head, that it's not really going on, and that's not the reality. But most societies outside the United States do not promote violence. Okay. They may have violence going on, but they do not promote gun usage and they do not promote gun violence. So, we're going to touch on another history lesson real quick. For those that are not familiar with this history lesson, we're going to get into talking about the history of how Latin America tried to erase melanated people. This clip is going to be from a person by the name of Austin Holloman. We're going to get into an in depth breakdown on this thing, and we're going to match it up with biblical prophecy as well. This is very important information that we're covering, folks, because the Bible says you're going to know the truth. Don't know the reality that we are the Israelites of the Bible. Going into the history of our people being impacted in Latin America proves that they are the lost tribes of Jacob, according to Scripture. Now, this gentleman that's covering this, he may not know this, but I'm providing you this commentary in the hopes that you can learn from this video. We're going to do an in-depth breakdown, and we're going to share scriptures in regards to this, so that way we can see the parallels of what's going on with our people as it relates to history. Watch close.
A lot of time traveling around the world solo. I spent more than a year in Latin America throughout 8 countries, and I traveled to these countries to learn about the social aspect of being in those countries. And last year, I remember telling people that break it down today on how that came to be and why you should travel and find out for yourself and tell me what you some of the stuff that happens there. I'm Austin Holloman. Like the video, subscribe. Let's get into it.
So, just to read the disclaimer on what is being said here, this video is for educational and information purposes only. It is based on publicly available sources, news reports, and official documents. The content does not promote violence or illegal activities and does not target any individual or group or government. All views expressed are intended to encourage critical thinking and informed decision. Viewer discretion is advised. And we're going to also cover biblical based prophecy. So I think it's important to cover that as well. This is all Bible prophecy. These are all biblical prophecies taking place. So we're going to parallel what we're watching in this video with the Bible. Listen close.
So just like North America, such as the United States and Canada, Latin America, such as Mexico, Brazil,
Let's pause for 1 second. Let me rewind it for 1 second, y'all. Watch
the
this.
countries that speak.
Now, what do you see on the screen, ladies and gentlemen? What do you see on the screen? That is the image of Caesar Borgia created for the Catholic Church. That European Eurocentric image that they tell you is Jesus Christ in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil is the start of Eurocentric delusion. The reason why Latin America tried to erase Black people, it starts off with religious ideology. The religious ideology is Christianity, which is modern day white supremacy, modern day Eurocentric delusionalism. Because when you read the Bible itself, it tells you that the people of the Bible are the very people that they enslaved, the lost tribes of Israel. Let's play on.
Spanish and Portuguese, to be in specific, was dominated once they arrived. In North America, it was dealt with. The natives were pretty much dealt with through an extermination campaign, such as a Trail of Tears, putting
What did he just mention that was significant there is what he called the Trail of Tears, right? Which spans from the United States all the way to the Americas, including Latin America. When people like Hernan Cortez, when people like Christopher Columbus invaded Hispaniola, invaded Latin America, invaded all of these areas and decimated the people. What our ancestors forgot to tell us, due to the fact that they were held captives, that we are the original Israelites of the Bible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out for a second, and we're going to go to the Bible app, and I want to show you real quick. I want to show you the fact that this is in the Bible of our people being unalived by the government structures of the world, and how we need to be aware that this is biblical based prophecy of our people being impacted by Eurocentric delusionalism. Let's go to the Leviticus chapter 26. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 26. All right, we're going to go to Leviticus chapter 26, and we're going to touch on this prophecy here in Leviticus chapter 26. All right, hopefully y'all can see the screen. Let's go ahead and start reading Leviticus chapter 26. It says, let's start right here at verse 14. It says, "But if you will not hearken unto me to do all these commandments, and if ye shall despise my statutes," meaning God's laws, right? It says, "If you shall despise my statutes, or if your soul abhor my judgments." So God gives laws and penalties for breaking his laws, right? "So that you will not do all my commandments, but that you break my covenant." So God had a covenant with a particular demographic on the earth. Now watch this. He says, verse 16. Let me read this right quick. It says, "I will also do this unto you. I will even appoint over you terror." Now let's focus on this part right here where it says, "I will even appoint over you terror." When Christopher Columbus, Hernan Cortez, the Catholic Church, the Protestant churches established the Americas, they did not do it through peace and love and goodwill towards men. They did it through terror. They did it through terror. They terrorized our ancestors, especially those that are native indigenous, aboriginal, so-called black, so-called Incan, so-called Mayan, so-called Taino, so-called African. Your people were terrorized by the invading forces that called themselves quote unquote settlers. Now let's read verse 17. It says, "And I will set my face against you, and he shall be slain before your enemies. They that hate you shall reign over you, and he shall flee when none pursues you." So this tells us that the people groups of Latin America will have individuals ruling over them that did not have their best interest, that the prophecies of the Bible are true. The prophecies of the Bible are true and consistent with what we're seeing as the truth as it relates to who our people are in these last days. They've tried for centuries to censor us from speaking the truth, but now we got history backed up with prophecy, and we can improve everything that we share in the Bible, what we on in the Word. Let me share another article so y'all can see what I'm talking about. Let me share the screen again, and let's go back to the video rather. Let's go back to the video. All right, you should be able to see the video right here on the side here now. All right, I'm going to play it in just a moment. Just going to bring up another screen share of the Bible. All right, here we go. All right, so let's play on from where we left off.
I'm not saying these things didn't happen in Latin America, but in Latin America, they became more assimilated in society and diluted. They bred the black out. It was kind of this.
So what he's saying here, right, is that in the Americas, they had a system, right? They had a system where they were forcing our people to not be able to understand who they are and intermingle them with other nations, right? That's what was going on. Give me a second, y'all. It seems like I'm having some technical difficulties, so I'm going to be right back. Let me play this video, and I'll be right back.
You are now listening to The Forefront Radio, where we discuss history, the Bible, the history of the Israelites, science, and other matters. Bring it out. The history of the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans as it relates to the Bible. Who were you prior to slavery? Who were you prior to colonization? These answers and more can be seen and heard as you listen to The Forefront Radio. You are now listening to The Forefront Radio, where we discuss history, the Bible, the history of the Israelites, science, and other matters. Bring it out. The history of the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans as it relates to the Bible. Who were you prior to slavery? Who were you prior to colonization? These answers and more can be seen and heard as you listen to The Forefront Radio.
All right, we are back, folks. Hopefully, the technical difficulty that we were having is done, and I just connected my Wi-Fi into the system. So hopefully, instead of Wi-Fi, I did a direct connection to Ethernet. So hopefully, it'll be a lot better. So let's go back to this video that we're talking about here, where Austin Holloman is going into the history of Latin America and why our people, specifically in the diaspora, was negatively impacted. Let me put my video here in the bottom area, so just in case I don't get any copyright issues, right? Because TikTok and YouTube, they're really goofy with that copyright stuff. All right, so let's watch on.
The same thing, except we're not going to necessarily segregate you. We're going to assimilate. We're going to integrate. Have such heavily mixed populations. They would.
So now this individual, he's not a historian, but he is familiar with the basics of history, right? And what we want to do is we want to give you the parallels between what he's discussing and what he's talking about, as well as what we can see in the Bible. So what he just stated was, in Latin America, you see certain proclivities of people trying to integrate themselves through so-called dating, right? But the concept of dating wasn't just across the board where everyone was open to integration. It was more so forcing the native indigenous as well as the black population to breed themselves out by unaliving the men and causing the women to have more interactions with Eurocentric men. That concept of colorism exists because of the fact of them trying to force native indigenous populations and black people to mate and have a lighter complexion offspring. You understand? Like a brother like me, I wouldn't pass the paper bag test in Latin America. You understand? So let's play on.
but also whiten up these societies the same way how they did. A lot of Latin America and North America had this. America, they did the exact same thing in places like Brazil and Argentina. For example, Argentina prides itself by a statement that was once made that Mexicans descend from the Aztecs, Peruvians descend from the Incas, but Argentines descend from the ships. When really the original people that were there also came from the Empire and Argentina. It feels like you're somewhere in Italy or Spain. Like it's pretty much all white. And you may see a high yellow mulatto every now and then, but for the most part, it's white. And you wouldn't believe that 1,000 years ago there were no white people, and in the 1800s, whenever they liberated slaves, 40% of that population.
So we know for a fact, right, that waters had turned blood red in Argentina, right? That the waters had turned blood red in Argentina, right? What was the reason for that happening in both Argentina and Peru? The reason for this taking place, y'all, is because of the fact that these nations unalived our ancestors by the masses. Here's some AI overview news on the information. It says a waterway near Buenos Aires, Argentina, known as the Sarandi Canal, recently turned bright red, sparking alarm and concern among residents. The color change was attributed to the organic dye. That's a lie that they're telling you, right? This phenomenon is happening all over, folks. Let me show y'all some images real quick. Look at these two pictures. Look at these two pictures. Y'all see that? Y'all see that? Let me show y'all some more images. Oops, it went to a video. I guess that's fine then. If it's going to a video, here we go.
River is running red in Argentina and stumping officials.
Blood red, just like as it's predicted in the Bible, y'all. You can't make this stuff up. So they were unaliving our people in Latin America, right? And now you see video footage of waters turning red. What is this parallel? This parallels prophecies in the Bible in the book of Revelation chapter 16. Let's go to that real quick. Let's go to Revelation chapter 16. Revelation 16 verse 4. So y'all can see the Bible is a true book, right? Revelation chapter 16 verse 4. Look at this. It says, Revelation 16 verse 4 describes the angel pouring out his vial into the rivers and fountains of waters, causing them to become blood, meaning the appearance of red blood. Y'all understand that? So let's go back to the image that you just saw. Let's go back to the video.
A river is running red in Argentina and stumping.
Bear with me, y'all. Dealing with some technical difficulties. Bear with me, y'all. Technical
Industry, where animal skins are treated with chemicals. However, it's still unclear what caused the river to turn red and whether or not it's toxic. Reports say local residents have been filing complaints against local businesses for decades because this is not the first time something like this has happened. The river has reportedly turned other colors in the past, including green, violet, miles outside of the capital of Buenos Aires, and environmental officials are leading an investigation to get to the bottom of this mystery.
So the water's turning blood red. It's already predicted in the Bible, but they're scientists, right? What I like to call scientists, because they're not really scientists. They're just people that lie and lie and lie all over the place. They'll tell you, oh, it's a chemical spill. Oh, it's dye that caused this to happen. Oh, it's this, that, and the third. Waters are turning blood red because there's a well-documented history of our people being unalived in Latin America. Let's play on to this video.
Even though that they exterminated these people in Argentina, a lot of, like, for example, the music tango actually has African heritage, their origin, the concept of whitewashing, or how did they? Well, the easiest way that you know that they already did it was through importing African slaves. Were brought across the Atlantic. 4.8 million of those went to Brazil, and Spanish America brought around, that being Peru, Colombia, Argentina, brought around a million African slaves into their colonies. Whenever they brought these slaves, they with the Españoles, which are the Europeans and specific Spanish Europeans at the top, of course. And then you had the mixed people in Latin America, which were mestizos and mulattoes, which were in the middle. And of course, at the bottom of this act in, which I brought up about black women in these countries wanting a white man, dreaming of having a white man. If you have this system, black at the bottom, if you are a native or an African slave after the liberation of slavery, and I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, after the liberation of slavery, and you want to have kids that are not in poverty because there's no opportunities down here, what is the best thing you can do? You can reappear. So when I was telling you I was in Latin America, hey, like sometimes when I'm getting more action from the white women here or the mixed women here, but when I try to talk to the black women in a place like Peru or sometimes in Colombia, even places like Sao Paulo, black women hear me talking to them. That's just, yes, things are equal for the most part in these countries, but that doesn't just go away. That has been bred through centuries. It started in the 15th century, which means that this has been going on for hundreds of years. You just don't unlearn this white.
So that's telling us, right, that not only was slavery impactful to the people physically, but also psychologically. There was psychological factors that took place that mentally destroyed the people to the point where they think it's better for them to intermingle their lineage and their bloodline with nations outside of their nations, right? But what does the Bible have to say in regards to this thing? Does the Bible sanction the interracial intermingling of nations and societies and creeds, and everyone can be friends and all of this stuff like that? Or does the Bible not sanction these actions and we have been deceived, especially for our people in Latin America? Let's find out by going to the Bible itself. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy chapter 7, and let's read what the God of the Bible says in regards to our people intermingling, right? Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 7, and we are going to read verse 3. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 7. Let's read verse 3. Deuteronomy chapter 7, let's read verse 3. It says, "Neither shall thou," meaning neither shall you, "make marriages with them. Your daughter, thy daughter, thou shalt not give unto his son." So that's going into blanqueamento. That's going into the intermingling of our nationality, where our women is intermingling with the dominant European culture, meaning the daughters of other nations, we shouldn't give to intermingle with our people. This is a law. I'm going to say it again for the kids in the back. This is not a suggestion. This is not a recommendation. This was a law according to the Creator. Then God gives you the reason why. Verse 4, "For they will turn away thy son from following after me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly." Do y'all hear what the Bible say? Do y'all hear what the Bible say? The Bible is telling us that if we intermingled with these other nations, that God would destroy us. God would allow us to be destroyed. Let's read it again. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 3. "Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly." So, what plan did they deceive our people? What plan did they do to deceive us? It was called blanqueamento. It was called blanqueamento. It was a stratagem utilize, right, to deceive our people into what's called Eurocentric delusionalism. Y'all understand that? They deceived our people into intermingling our bloodlines with their bloodlines, showing you the history of Latin America is vast and we need to know the truth in regards to what happened to our people. So, the reason why Latin America is full of so much bias, so much racism, so much colorism, it is because our people were forced to integrate with these nations and they tried to white us out. All right. So thank y'all for listening to the Forefront Radio. I hope this discussion was rewarding for you. I hope you learned something new based on history. May the Most High bless you and keep you and cause his face to shine upon you. With that, we say shalom, peace, and 12.